Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to an all new episode of the DTI Takeover Show. For those of you who are just tuning in, I am your host, Miss Kayla. So today's a little bit different. We like to highlight different entrepreneurs, different business owners, and things like that. But today, but today, Total Entertainment Radio, we gonna take a dive into a little bit of politics this time around. And so we have David Hotz here. He's a candidate for Wayne County City Commissioner District 11. How you doing, David?
Good. How about yourself today?
I'm well. So before we get into everything, first tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, I'm a working class person who gets by day to day like everyone else. I was a home healthcare worker for 24 years, taking care of my mom until she recently passed away.
Mm,
And that's also helped drive me into the political realm, where I started advocating for politics about 10 years ago, primarily in healthcare and in environmental issues. And I've done a lot of local work since then. And otherwise, I'm a security manager right now, working day to day like everyone else.
wow, wow. So David, what was something that you saw while I'm sorry for your loss, by the way.
Thank you.
Um, what was something that or some issues that were occurring while you were taking care of your mom that kind of made you think like, wait a minute, something's not right?
Well, I mean, when you're dealing with Medicare, for instance, you have a private industry, which are providers, which starts to make you wonder why every 4 months you're dealing with a whole new set of bureaucracy where they're causing issues with you either getting your medication or changing your medication in a way that it looks like your other medication can cause a problem. And then your
Mm,
doctors constantly have to write a whole new letter trying to get approval for your medications. And you start to realize there's something wrong with the system.
yeah,
And then when you get the documents coming back from, what the insurance agencies are getting charged from doctors and so forth, and you're like, wait, we couldn't even see where these costs are coming from, and they're charging $3,000 for a 10-minute visit.
yeah,
So you start to realize there's a big problem with the system that has to start from the ground up. And another part of the problem is when people talked about healthcare and politics, it always seemed like we didn't have the right people talking about it.
mm-hmm,
And so that got me more involved on a local level. At one point, I was running forums and debates because we actually need to hear actual policy on these issues from people running for office.
right,
Otherwise, we don't really know what they stand for in that.
right, right. And so now here we are. Why Wayne County City Commissioner?
Well, first of all, a lot of people don't realize how much work the Wayne County actually does. They're almost like a regional city council, and it seems like it's always a forgotten area where all the attention's either on city council type of stuff, or
Mhm.
mayors, or your state legislator. But a lot of the real work comes from the city council. And every time I kept going to my local officials on the city stuff and saying, hey, why don't we have X, Y, and Z? They were always like, oh, Wayne County blocked us, or we're not
Mm,
doing this. And started running into resident issues in the local front of, hey, we got flooding in our backyard from a drain. That's a county
yeah,
drain, but they won't come out and fix it. So you start to realize there that that's where a lot of source of issues has to come from. And it's also an area where we have a lot of older people in office over there that it doesn't feel like we had the workhorses we used to have. So
yeah,
we want to get younger people in there who understand new technology development that's coming in, like the jobs
yeah,
of the future. We have to be prepared, right?
right,
And I also want to have a bottom up economy type of development. We have to invest in our own people.
yeah,
So if you're just going to develop on top of areas that don't have infrastructure and skill bases, you're not going to succeed.
right.
So to me, the county is the best place to go to get the most done.
Okay. And so, for those who may not know, what would be the exact role of the commissioner?
Well, the commission is kind of a tricky situation because you have 15 commissioners. So that
Okay.
means one person's vote doesn't necessarily, going to equal something gets done. So
Okay.
sometimes you're positioning, maneuvering, and sometimes you're also working with the municipalities to a point where you can say no to certain things. And you put pressure on them to do the right things too in their own. So, like on dealing with environmental issues and so forth, it does give me a position to do a lot of good things.
Hmm.
But when it comes to what the actual county does, they have roughly $1.82 billion running through their budget, and only a portion of that is actually going to services and development. But we can drive where that goes, right? So to
Gotcha.
me, instead of just driving it to doing, let's say, the same 90 style infrastructure and methods we're doing for our roads,
Mm-hmm.
we can now start looking at, hey, there's new ways of doing roads. We can maybe start enforcing, weight limits on trucks. We can use new materials, especially in the day of solar. Why don't we have more solar roads being tested out in Michigan, right? So,
Right.
how can we ever do what Biden suggested with having a EV mandate? If we don't have charging stations, solar parking
Mhm.
lots, we don't have the infrastructure to do what we actually want to do.
Right.
So that's really where it comes from, is where do we drive these things from, and where do we actually put the development? We would be the ones that be pushing.
Okay. Okay. So what is your stance? Why should people vote for you?
Well, first of all, I'm the only real grassroots person in this race. So, you want someone that actually relates to your issues and actually understand. Like, I don't have health care because I can't afford the premiums at my job, right?
Mm,
So I'm the kind of person that's literally working paycheck to paycheck like everyone else and understands. And it's not just about creating jobs, it's about creating access to jobs. If you don't have public transit, then how are people
yeah.
going to get around and have more access to opportunity, right? If you
Right.
don't have affordable housing, you know what I mean? So,
Oh my
uh,
gosh.
yeah. So you have to have those two in combination with the right infrastructure, and then you have something going. And the other thing is definitely the environmental front. I've been working on environmental issues here for roughly 10 years. And that is a major issue. And for my house alone, I got two chemical plants and a landfill I have to smell, and no one is doing taking care of these issues, but the few people like myself who's been an advocate for it. So the only way we can actually fix these issues is to have someone actually willing to fight, to actually
Hmm.
take care of them and stand up for the working class people here. We also need people who not just show up to events on things like healthcare or living wage, but actually live and do the work.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. I deal with people all the time who walk in, pass out cards, and that's great, but they're not
Yeah.
listening to the speakers, actually learning how to help the community. I actually do that. I spend loads of time working with these different organizations trying to do the right thing. I advocated recently in Romulus to get more air quality monitors here.
Yeah.
That's important stuff. So we just don't have enough people doing this kind of work. And plus, this is not just, oh, you're running for a position that has a little bit of power and a little bit of money to it. No, the biggest change to me is going to be having healthcare, first of all. That's the real lifestyle
Yes.
change to me, right? But
Yes.
I'm not doing this as a part time job. This is a full time job to me. My sole occupation is going to be serving the public, and that's all I'm here to do.
I like that, David. I like that.
Thank
I
you.
mean, so oh, I just blanked out on my question. It's refreshing to speak with someone who can relate and who I think a lot of times we as a people kind of shy away from just politics, period, because it seemed like it's just a whole bunch of people who sound good, right? Saying the
Yep.
right thing. You really don't understand what it's like that everyday people deal with day to day. You're not in my shoes.
Yep.
At all. How could you possibly see that I can't get to work and there's not a bus stop, right? That I
Yep.
can get to, or any other type of transportation. Yeah, I got an Uber, but then that's money as well to get to this job, that I may or may not get or may not have access to even get to.
Yep.
Like it's so much that go into it. So it is refreshing, David, to hear someone who's kind of experiencing those things.
Well, I think that's important. We keep doing the same method, which, they say that sanity is repeating the same thing, hoping for a different result. And just electing people who have money or political connections, that
Hmm.
doesn't mean they actually understand people or are going to take care of you when they get into office.
Right.
So we have to start electing single moms and,
Yeah.
getting people who are actually struggling on these issues day to day in office. And the system itself is not designed to do that. And that's one of the reasons why, getting into office and having a platform to begin with, it puts me in a position like once you're in office, then you can say, hey, you know what? You want to challenge me for the spot, then let's have a debate. Let's
Right.
actually talk about these things, because there probably won't even be a single form of debate in this entire race, which is kind of scary to me. We should have that for school boards, not just for county, right? So you have to start putting people in position who won't take the money and run with it, who are actually there for the right reasons, and have been actually putting the real work on the ground. And I don't think we do that often enough.
I agree. I agree. And I know maybe you've gotten this question. You hear this question a lot, but shoot, what is your first order of business if you were to get elected?
Well, I think it's a lot of what we've already talked about because a lot of those go hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
So you have to have dense housing is a big part of the factor just to even reduce the traffic, and then then you're providing that right growth in the right areas, and then when you're doing public transit with that on top of there, then all of a sudden you have something when it works, right? You have two things working together. So that's part of it. The other thing is too we don't talk enough about is when you were talking about infrastructure, for instance, it's also dealing with your electrical grid. It's dealing with your internet speeds. Like we have to upgrade all these things. It's not just roads and bridges, right? So you have to put the right infrastructure in there all the way around. We should have solar parking lots and street lights that are solar. Those things take a burden off of what we're paying DTE, and you're producing energy yourself, right? And you're bringing new jobs in who now have to install these things. So all these things come hand in hand with each other. And so those three things alone will make an enormous difference. Another thing is driving the right kind of stuff here. So we
Yeah.
still want to bring entertainment here. We still want to have, like I live in Romulus where we have an airport and no reason for people to stay here to spend money.
Yeah.
So, like what is here? Our downtown, unfortunately, is a post office and a strip club. We have a rec center is the only place to take people for a birthday party. So
Yeah.
you have to start driving development the right way. So otherwise you have growth. So all those things come together. But my legacy goal, everything I want to do one day,
Yeah.
and it may take years to do, but one day I'd like to see a rail system that slowly will expand from Detroit to Ann Arbor. It can run down the 94 corridor. But we have to have a public transportation system like that will provide jobs all over, right?
Yes.
So, hey, we want to develop in Detroit because even Ann Arbor people can now make it at a job, right, without an issue.
Yes.
And you're also reducing traffic. Let's expand some lanes in some places too. We have too many trucks, not enough way to get around it. So those are all things that we can do on a county level.
I like that. I like that. Now, are you all involved when it comes to like schools as well in your community? We it seems like just in Michigan period that all the roads have been messed up forever, right? Like they're never getting
Yeah,
fixed. They're like the projects are never done or completed. And sometimes it feels like it's being wasted and could be going towards schools, books for
yeah.
one, and everything else and just our paying our teachers or whatever it is that our schools are lacking. Is that something that you all kind of have, a say so in, or how does that work?
Unfortunately, there's people all the time who say, "Oh, we're running for the county, so I'm going to build to help fire departments and education, this and that." Unfortunately, we don't really do much of that. There's only
Okay.
one program in education that the county has part due, and that's a partnership essentially, which has after-school programs in Detroit, but I want to see expanded out. So I used to do work in the Romulus School District, for the high school and the junior high, and I know a lot of kids that need those after-school programs. I would like to
Yes.
see those expanded out. But that is about the only thing we do at education level. The only other part I would like to do with this platform on education, obviously, is going into schools and doing some student leadership stuff and actually advocating for people to get involved in one. That's about the only other things that I can think we can do on education.
But that's good because we need after school programs. So like you said, some kids they need it. They have nowhere to go. Parents need it, especially working parents need it, and just to keep our kids busy. We don't have too much of anything for our kids to do.
That's true, and especially if you're dealing with low income families,
Yes.
they don't have ways of getting back and forth or even daycare afterwards for them to be watched at. And a lot of these programs are also mental health based. So, and that's something that's desperately needed in our youth nowadays. So we
Yeah.
definitely need an expansion of those programs. And one of the things I was even talking to with a teacher in Romulus who's now got like the first biological space program in the entire country in the junior
Oh
high.
wow.
And I would love to see that expanded elsewhere because what amazed me most wasn't even just the passion of the teacher or what they're, being learning directly at that program. But the thing is, the kids started asking questions about other fields of education. Like, hey,
Hmm.
how fast does a spaceship go? Now all of a sudden we're teaching a kid trig in junior high because he wants to learn how that actually gets there and what speeds.
Yeah.
So he was practically teaching like 7 or 8 different fields of education. You know what I mean, with one program. And
Wow.
we're not even funding it through our school system. He had to go to get a bank to actually give a donation, like a charity donation, to fund this program. That's
Mm.
incredible to me that that's not being funded through either the school system or the county.
Hmm.
So, we need to do far better on those things.
I agree. I agree. So David, when is election day?
August 6th. It's a Democratic primary. There won't be a general opponent, so the real election is going to be right here in our primary.
All right, you guys. So you make sure you get out and vote. Be the change you want to see. I think that's really what this boils down to. Be the change that you want to see. And David, from speaking with you, you can see your passion. You can see that this is something that you're really care about, that you're dedicated to. And honestly, it probably comes because you're living it. It
100%.
because you are a living witness to what your everyday citizen goes through. Everybody not balling out of control. Everybody can't afford the schools and can afford to have the good jobs and the cars and whatever it may be. Like this stuff is life, and life is life. There's no other way I could put that. And day to day, we all just try to do our best to survive and to make it.
It's
Um,
all about quality of life issues, right? So,
yeah,
what makes your quality of life better? Your living, your air, your money, your, what I mean, education. It's all about quality of life. And that's what we need to get back to.
right. Quality of life. I love it, David. So please let everyone know how they can, for one, how they can stay involved. Like, how can they contact you? How can they follow you on social media? Things like that.
Well, my website is electhotz, HOTZ.com. Real easy to find, or davidhotz.com. You can get there either way. Real easy to find me on there, and then from there you can find my Facebook and everything else. We're going to be all over knocking doors throughout the entire district every day. I already spent 2.5 hours out there knocking doors today, and
Ooh
we'll
wee.
probably be back at it yet. So, but yeah, we're my phone number is out there. Literally, my address is out there. People can get a hold of me through 100 different ways. I leave an open door policy, so if people have questions, please get a hold.
That's good. And David, are you like do you are you accepting like volunteers and anybody to help you with your
Well,
campaign?
of course, people want to come and knock doors and so forth. That's the main thing we're doing right now is knocking doors and maybe making some calls. But besides that, everything's on my website. That has volunteer forms on there as well. They can click on it and register right from there.
Well,
So
there
hopefully people will come out and we will be knocking doors every day.
every day. I love it. I love it. Thank you, David, for being a guest today on our show. Everybody, make sure you guys are registered voters. Make sure you guys get out here and vote. Voting is so important. I know you hear it all the time, and you maybe think it sounds cliche, but it's so important. Your vote does matter. If you don't vote, then you really can't complain about anything. Be the
So true.
change. You can't. You have nothing to say. You didn't do your part to help make the change, which is to get out here and vote. Okay. Well, until next time, everybody. I am your host, Miss Kayla. Once again, David, thank you. It's a pleasure having you on our show today. You guys, make sure you guys register, vote. Check out David. Follow David on all his social media platforms. Check out his website, davidhost.com. If you want to vote, if you want to get involved with him, and to help volunteer to knock on some of these doors, go ahead and make sure you guys reach out. I'm sure he'll appreciate the help. All right. That's all I got for you today. We are signing out. Peace
Thank
out.
you. Have a good
You're
one.
welcome. You do the same.